Imagine you're a perfect student. Not just good grades perfect. School captain, top of the class, volunteers for everything, says no worries when you are in fact extremely worried and have built this entire identity around being the person everyone can rely on. Now, imagine that behind this polished facade, you have exactly one emotional outlet. You write brutal, unhinged email drafts to everyone who has ever pissed you off. Classmates, teachers, your academic rival, especially your academic rival. You never send them, you're just processing. And then every single one gets sent to everyone. That is the premise of I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Liang. And this video is full spoiler recap and review, so if you want to go in blind, now's the time to leave, read the book, and then come back. For everyone else, we're getting into it. Our main character is Sadie Wen, school captain, gunning for Berkeley, performing calm and perfect at all times, high functioning and emotionally on fire. Then there's Julius Gong, her co-captain, her academic rival, and the one person who can see straight through her carefully maintained act. Arrogant, annoyingly handsome, and deeply irritating for reasons Sadie hasn't fully examined yet. These two have been competing since childhood, and the central question this book keeps asking is, at what point does 10 years of obsessing over someone stop looking like hatred and start looking like something else entirely? Alright, before we get into the chaos, we need to talk about the characters, because this book is very character-driven. Yes, the plot is technically about leaked emails, but emotionally it's about two overachievers who are both deeply unwell in very aesthetically academic ways. Let's start with Sadie Wen. At first glance, Sadie is the perfect student. School captain, valedictorian track, gunning for Berkeley, says yes to everything she should absolutely say no to. The school sees this endlessly polite, endlessly capable girl. Sadie is not fine. Sadie is a girl who has convinced herself that if she can just be good enough, smart enough, useful enough, then everything will be okay. And that makes her fascinating because she's not a soft, harmless people pleaser. She is a people pleaser with rage. She smiles, helps, takes on extra work, lets people use her, and then goes home and writes the most vicious email drafts you've ever seen. And honestly, I respect it. A lot of that pressure comes from home. Her dad left, her mum works brutal hours at the family bakery, and Sadie has quietly appointed herself the person who'll fix everything. Get into Berkeley, build a stable career, become the safety net her family lost. That is a lot to place on one teenage girl. So when people dismiss her or take advantage of her, she doesn't explode. She files it. She turns it into a draft email, which is why the disaster isn't just embarrassing, it's devastating, because everyone suddenly sees the part of herself she has spent years burying. Now, Julius Gong. Julius is smug, polished, arrogant, and has that very specific energy of a boy who knows he's handsome and has decided to make that everyone else's problem. Sadie cannot stand him. But here's the thing. Julius is Sadie's mirror. He is competitive in exactly the same way she is, ambitious in exactly the same way. He understands the pressure of being exceptional because he is living under it too. The difference is that while Sadie hides behind politeness, Julius hides behind arrogance. Both of them are lying about being fine. And Julius is one of the only people who doesn't buy Sadie's perfect girl act. He notices the fake smile, the swallowed anger, the moments where she is barely holding it together. For Sadie, being seen by Julius feels like losing. A lot of Julius's drive makes more sense once we meet James, his older brother. Charming, accomplished, absurdly impressive. The kind of older sibling whose shadow would make anyone feel like they need to constantly overperform just to be noticed. Suddenly, Julius's arrogance looks less like ego and more like armor. He doesn't just want to win because he enjoys winning, he's terrified of being second best, which of course makes him and Sadie perfect for each other. Then there's Abigail, Sadie's best friend. Stylish, chaotic, loyal, and emotionally much freer than Sadie. She is the friend who will support your bad decisions and defend you in public and make you laugh when your life is falling apart. She loves Sadie, not because Sadie is useful, but because she's Sadie. And in a book full of conditional love and performance, that matters a lot. Sadie's mum and brother Max round out the home picture. Max coasting through life unburdened while Sadie carries everything. Their mum exhausted but loved fiercely. You can see exactly how Sadie decided at some point that everyone else's stability was her responsibility. So really, the heart of the book isn't Sadie versus Julius. It's two people trying to survive the pressure they've placed on themselves and slowly realizing that their supposed enemy might be the only person who actually gets it. So now that we know who these people are, let's get into the story. Before the email disaster even happens, Sadie's life is already one bad day away from collapsing. The book opens with Sadie doing what Sadie does best: overachieving. She's outside Woodvale Academy in the freezing cold, waiting to give a school tour to prospective parents. Early, prepared, committed. Obviously. Except Julius is also there. And from this first scene, you immediately clock their dynamic. These two are not casual rivals. They are Olympic-level haters. Sadie has a running mental scoreboard. Tests, speeches, awards, school duties, everything counts. Julius gets praised and Sadie takes it personally. Sadie gets praised and Julius probably does too. Even a school tour becomes a battlefield. What makes it worse is that Julius makes perfection look effortless. And if you have ever had to grind hard while someone next to you just seems naturally good at everything, you understand why Sadie is ready to commit emotional crimes. Yeah. But the tour is just the opening act. Once we're inside the school, we see the full weight of what Sadie is carrying. People want her notes. Group members don't do their work. Teachers rely on her. And Sadie just keeps saying yes. Yes, she can help. Yes, she can fix it. Yes, she can handle it, while getting quietly more resentful with every single ask. But Sadie doesn't know how to say no. She doesn't want to be difficult, doesn't want to crack the image. So instead, she writes emails. Not emails she sends, drafts. Private drafts that function as her emotional dumping ground. Every frustration, every insult she swallowed, every moment someone took advantage of her, filed away in her inbox in the most brutally honest language possible. Bruh. Honestly, girl, get a journal. These emails are petty, they're mean, they're dramatic, and they are absolutely not meant for anyone else's eyes. The person who gets most of them obviously is Julius. Because Julius isn't just a rival, he's the one person who can cut through her act and get to the real version of her. The angry one, the one who wants to win, wants to be seen, and wants Julius to know exactly how much he gets under her skin. Which is what makes this disaster so catastrophic. Because one day, those drafts get sent, not one accidentally, years of them, to classmates, teachers, and Julius. Everyone who was never supposed to see any of it. Rosie confronts her publicly. Teachers are offended. The whole school starts whispering. And Sadie cannot hide behind innocence because she did write those things. She just never meant for anyone to know. That's what makes this setup work so well. On the surface, it's funny. The idea of your private rage folder detonating across your entire school is almost cartoonish. But for Sadie, it's devastating because her whole identity is built around being good. Good student, good daughter, good captain, good girl. And now everyone has receipts that she's not quite as nice as she advertised. Nope. But here's what makes it more interesting than just public humiliation. The emails don't only expose Sadie's anger, they expose her attention. Because Julius doesn't just receive insults, he receives years of emails where Sadie has been watching him, analyzing him, clocking tiny details. His eyes, his hands, the way he speaks, the way he carries himself. And Julius, being Julius, immediately spots the very thin line between hatred and obsession. When he confronts her, he doesn't just call her cruel, he calls her fake. And that lands a lot harder. So the setup isn't just, oops, embarrassing emails got out. It's Sadie's carefully controlled life cracking open. And the one person she least wants seeing the truth turning out to be the person who may have understood her all along. So after Sadie's private rage emails go public, things somehow get worse. Because apparently you're humiliating yourself in front of your classmates, teachers, and your annoyingly attractive academic rival is not enough. The school gets involved. Sadie and Julius end up making things messier during a digital etiquette presentation, which is already funny. The school brings someone in to lecture students about responsible online behavior because of Sadie's emails. And instead of sitting quietly and letting the shame wash over them, Sadie and Julius start arguing. In the middle of it, in front of everyone, during a presentation about responsible communication. Bruh. Iconic. Terrible for the school. Great for my entertainment. Because they're school captains, this becomes bigger than just two students having beef. The school is worried their very public meltdown makes Woodvale look bad, especially with prospective parents already side-eyeing the chaos. So the principal's solution is simple. Sadie and Julius have to work together. Extra duties, unite a front, prove you are not two academic weapons seconds away from emotionally assassinating each other in public. In theory sensible, in practice, it's like locking two feral cats in a room and asking them to write a teamwork reflection. Neither of them can really refuse though. Sadie needs her captain role intact for her transcript and Berkeley. Julius has his own reasons for not wanting this to escalate further, so they agree. The first task is cleaning the bike shed. At first, it's exactly what you'd expect. Bickering, Julius being dramatic, Sadie trying to be efficient, and then there's a water fight, which is such a classic rom-com beat. But it works here because these two are so tightly controlled all the time. They both live like they're being graded by an invisible committee. So when they're actually just spraying each other with hose and laughing, it feels like a genuine crack in the armor. For a moment, they're not captains, not rivals, not perfect students, just two teenagers being idiots. Then Julius's blazer moment. After the water fight, Sadie realizes her white shirt has gone transparent, and Julius turns away instead of making fun of her, hands her his blazer, gives her privacy. Verbally, he's still Julius, still making little comments, but when she's genuinely vulnerable, he doesn't humiliate her. He protects her dignity. And that's the first real sign that his cruelty has limits. Then near the end of the shed cleanup, Sadie finds a nasty message written about her on the wall. And suddenly, this stops being funny. Someone has written something genuinely cruel, and Sadie is hurt in a way she can't easily hide. Julius sees it, and he doesn't laugh, doesn't file it away to use later. He erases it. It's a small moment, but it matters, because Julius may provoke Sadie constantly, but when someone else hurts her, his reaction isn't amusement, it's quiet anger. The forced proximity continues with the yearbook committee assignment, interviewing a notable Woodvale alumnus. They spend the whole sequence getting rejected by former students, which is honestly very funny for two people so used to being impressive. But the important part is who they eventually land, James, Julius's older brother. James is wildly successful. Harvard, published author, charming, accomplished, and very aware of his own brilliance. And meeting him reframes Julius completely, because Julius isn't just competing with Sadie, he's been living his whole life in the shadow of someone who seems impossible to surpass. His arrogance starts looking less like superiority and more like self-defense. His obsession with winning starts looking like fear. Sadie sees that, and it matters because she spent years imagining Julius as this effortless, unbeatable person. Turns out he's also under pressure, also performing, also desperately trying to prove something. Just like her. That's the real function of the forced proximity in this book. It doesn't just push them into romantic situations. It forces them to witness each other honestly. Sadie sees Julius's insecurity, Julius sees Sadie's exhaustion, and their arguments start feeling different. Less like two people who want to destroy each other, more like two people who know exactly where the other's armor is weakest, and are slowly deciding not to aim there anymore. Now, let's talk about the romance, because this is where the book gets very fun, very frustrating, and very, you two need to stop calling this hatred because I have eyes. Sadie and Julius are academic rivals, yes, but their rivalry has never been casual. These two have spent years studying each other like they're preparing for an exam that never ends. Sadie knows Julius's habits, his expressions, exactly how his face shifts when he's being smug versus when he's actually angry. Julius knows when Sadie's fake smiling, when she's using politeness like a shield, how badly she needs to be liked. Which means their rivalry is already weirdly intimate before the romance even starts. They know each other too well to be strangers. They pay too much attention to each other to be casual enemies. So when the feelings start shifting, it doesn't feel sudden. It feels like the emotion has been sitting there for years, quietly filed under hatred, because that was easier than admitting the truth. Sadie has fully convinced herself that Julius is the villain of her story. And to be fair, he does make that very easy sometimes. He is arrogant, precise, and knows exactly how to get under her skin in ways that explain 42 draft emails. But the more time they spend together, the harder it becomes to ignore that Julius is not just cruel. He is guarded, he is insecure, he is lonely in ways he doesn't want anyone to clock. And worst of all, he is occasionally kind, which is very inconvenient when you are maintaining a long-term hatred campaign. He gives her the blazer, he erases the cruel message from the shed wall, he pays attention when she's hurt and doesn't weaponize it. His words are still sharp, but his actions keep revealing something softer underneath. And Sadie, who has been building a very detailed case against this boy for a decade, starts running out of evidence. The James interview is a big turning point here because it lets Sadie see Julius as someone's younger brother rather than just her rival. James is charming and successful and takes up space effortlessly. And Julius, who normally acts untouchable, suddenly seems tense and almost small beside him. That's the moment Sadie realizes Julius's need to win isn't just ego, it's pressure. It's the fear of always being second. And Sadie understands that feeling intimately. So the romance isn't just built on attraction, it's built on recognition. Everyone sees Sadie as the perfect student, Julius sees the exhausted girl underneath. Everyone sees Julius as the golden boy. Sadie starts seeing the boy who is constantly measuring himself against impossible standards. They see the parts of each other that everyone else misses. Then, we get to the party scene. Sadie throws it to fix her reputation, to make people like her again, to clean up the mess, which is so deeply Sadie. Instead of sitting with the fact that some of these people treated her badly, she goes straight into damage control. How do I make everyone comfortable? How do I make everyone forgive me? And then Julius shows up, even though he said he wouldn't.
Nope.
Even though he claims it's for the free drinks. Sure, Julius. We absolutely believe you. He is dressed too formally, too tense, pretending not to care while caring so visibly it becomes personally embarrassing for him. And then comes the truth or dare kiss. On the surface, it's framed as a joke. Dare Sadie to kiss Julius, watch the drama, laugh at the rivals. Sadie agrees because she's not about to let Julius think he has power over her.
Nope.
So she kisses him, quickly, barely, just enough. Well, it does become a little bit more.
Mwah.
Not spice. I'm not talking about spice. But emotionally, it's not nothing. It's 10 years of attention and rivalry and tension being forced into a completely new shape. And Julius's reaction makes it very clear he is not unaffected. Once you kiss your sworn academic enemy at a party in front of everyone, you can't just go back to pretending the tension is purely about grades. From here, the emotional stakes keeps climbing. Sadie starts realizing Julius has been paying just as much attention to her as she has to him. And that's terrifying. Because being seen by Julius is different from being admired by everyone else. Sadie knows how to perform for teachers, impress classmates, become whatever version of herself is most useful, but Julius doesn't want the polished version. He keeps reacting to the real one. The angry one, the competitive one, the imperfect one. The version Sadie is convinced will make people leave. And that's why the romance actually lands. Julius doesn't fall for Sadie because she's perfect. He falls for her having already seen the emails, the resentment, the pettiness, the jealousy, the ambition, the fear, the rage. He has read the unedited draft version of her. No filter, no smile, no kind regards at the bottom. And somehow, that doesn't make him look away. If anything, it makes him understand her more. That's the real romantic fantasy here. Not just being loved by a rival, being loved by the person who has seen the worst version of you and stuck around anyway. So yes, the banter is fun, the academic rivalry is delicious, and the tension is earned. But the reason this romance works is because underneath all the competition and insults, it's about two people who are exhausted from performing. They don't soften each other by becoming completely different people. They soften because they finally found someone who understands the pressure, someone who knows exactly how sharp they can be and chooses them anyway. Their rivalry doesn't disappear by the end. It transforms. Because the same intensity that made them enemies is exactly what makes the romance feel so earned. They were never indifferent. They were never casual. They were always paying attention. They just needed to realize that sometimes the person you're trying the hardest to beat is also the person who has been keeping pace with you the whole time. So, final thoughts. I loved this book.
Nice.
Genuinely loved it. It was funny, romantic, heartfelt, and way more emotionally affecting than I expected. I laughed out loud multiple times. I was kicking my feet during the romantic scenes, and then somehow, this book also made me cry. Sad tears, and then happy tears. Full emotional experience. And Liang did not have to go that hard, but she did, and I respect it. And I think the biggest reason it works is because Liang is so good at building chemistry. This is why I always say romance doesn't need spice to land. When the tension is constructed properly, scene by scene, with two characters paying attention to each other in all these tiny, emotionally loaded ways, you feel everything. And Sadie and Julius, so freaking cute. From the very beginning, Julius has such strong pulling her pigtails on the playground energy, constantly provoking her, watching her, pretending he didn't care while he so obviously cared. Bruh. And Sadie was no better. The girl had years of draft emails about this boy. At some point, that is not hatred. That is dedication. That is emotional investment with formatting. Sadie is such a relatable character because she is the textbook definition of setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. People pleaser, perfectionist, no boundaries, terrified of disappointing anyone. The book does a brilliant job showing how that level of people pleasing eventually has to blow up somewhere. And in Sadie's case, that somewhere was her draft folder. Which is why I need to say, as a friend, girl, get a journal. Do not store your violent thoughts in your school email account. But underneath the comedy, Sadie's emotional arc genuinely got to me. Her dad leaving 10 years ago explained so much. Why she hates when people are angry at her, why she feels responsible for holding everything together, why she has decided it's her job to fix things that were never hers to fix. That storyline made me tear up, and I just wanted to tell her, you are a child. It was not your responsibility. Julius also grew on me significantly as the book went on. He comes in looking like this arrogant, untouchable boy with too much confidence and very good K-pop style hair. But the more we learn about him, especially through James, the more the image cracks. The golden child older brother explains everything about why Julius is the way he is. No wonder he is obsessed with winning. No wonder second place feels unbearable. And when Sadie eventually sees that and stands up for him, I knew it was over. Julius was done. Gone. Absolutely cooked. I also love that Sadie is nerdy and athletic because it breaks the stereotype that academic characters have to be physically useless. And the fact that she researches how to play truth or dare before a party? Ridiculous. Hilarious. So completely her. Now let's talk about Abigail. I went back and forth on her, especially once we find out what she did. But I don't think she was malicious. I think she genuinely believed she was helping, even if it was an incredibly bad decision. For most of the book, she's a chaotic, confident, fiercely loyal friend, and I loved her for it. The line in this book that stuck with me most was this: if you stay quiet about the things that hurt you, people will mistake your tolerance for permission. That is such a good line, and it's basically the thesis of Sadie's entire arc. Because by the end, Sadie isn't just learning to love Julius, she is learning to stop abandoning herself. Learning that being nice doesn't mean having no limits. That being good doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. That being loved doesn't require being perfect. So yes, 5 stars, full recommendation. If you like academic rivals, forced proximity, sharp banter, emotionally constipated boys, overachieving girls with hidden rage, jealous moments, and romance that makes you genuinely giddy, read this book. And Liang is so damn good at this. And honestly, the story is a love letter to every overachiever who has ever smiled politely while mentally drafting a 6-paragraph complaint email. You know who you are. So, have you read this book? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!